Hello and welcome to the Nether podcast. Because now there's no green, it's just Nether.
It's just
now it's just Nether. Welcome to the Nether podcast.
Doxed.
Yes. Yes, actually we'll cut that part.
Yeah.
And we'll have to edit this ourselves because Bradley probably won't want to edit this. He will be so infuriated. In fact, this will probably never get published because Bradley will probably just delete it. Yes. So you may be wondering, where is the host, Bradley? Bradley is featured in every episode?
I believe so. I can't think of any. I mean, I know of some that we have recorded in the past without Bradley, but I also know that we were all so drunk that he couldn't physically understand what we were saying in the podcast.
And I think there was one podcast episode that was recorded by Dan and Tom, and I think that also never got released because either they didn't properly record it or they lost it, but also they claimed that it was such a terrible, awful podcast that it should never see the light of day, probably because they were also insanely drunk. It was probably of terrible quality, so maybe it's best that it doesn't see the light of day. But so now this is in fact the first episode where Bradley is not on the podcast, and it's hilariously also the first episode with the two new microphones.
Very true.
We'll have to see how this sounds, but this should theoretically be the single best that the podcast has ever sounded.
Yeah, I think.
How close are you to the mic, by the way? I'm a hand's distance away.
Yeah, I'm about a hand's distance away as well, but I also notice my mic is peaking more when I talk than when you talk. See, mine's definitely peaking more. So I'm gonna just try and talk a little bit softer. I think that's
it's probably about the same. Yeah, there's probably not too much difference.
Okay.
Yeah, there's not too much difference, I don't think.
But it did surprise me, I will say, when you heard the podcast of me and, well, you didn't listen to the whole thing, admittedly, but you said you listened to 10 minutes of the podcast that me and Bradley did, talking about Poor Things, and you said you immediately noticed the difference in audio quality.
Yeah, because it was that much better than how we've normally been recording it. I don't know how no one's noticed, especially you, Bradley. You literally listen to all of the episodes and edit them. How has this not noticed how awfully bad all of the episodes are sounding? I mean, I guess I hadn't really noticed either. I just was like, oh, it must sound better than it was before because it's with a better microphone.
You know, that's what I assumed as well. I was like, oh, brand new microphone, surely it must sound better.
But no, it did not sound better. It sounded a lot worse. And as soon as Bradley published the one of you and him in his room recording that episode of the podcast talking about, what was it? Poor Things,
Poor Things and Oppenheimer, I think.
Yeah, that episode sounded a lot better than the previous episode, which I think was me, Bradley, and Tom.
That episode. I meant to ask, how did that go?
Yeah, that went good. I mean, the only other thing that might have made that episode sound worse was that I was holding Tom's microphone, so we had two different microphones.
Right.
In the setup. Yeah, we had two different microphones.
Did Bradley bring his, or what was?
No, Tom brought his microphone and I had my microphone.
Oh, I see. And
I was holding Tom's mic. But yeah, now we've got two identical mics, and that means we can hold them as close to our mouths as possible. And basically, the closer you can have it to your face, the better it will sound. Pretty much. I see. Yeah, that's how it works. Well, obviously it needs to be like balanced and stuff, and you shouldn't eat the microphone. We should probably also buy some pop filters because we don't have any pop filters. But I mean, we could leave out the pop filters. Maybe it gives it more distinctive sound, a sharper sound. You know, I don't really know. I'm not a sound engineer.
Sure. Me neither.
I'm a React engineer, coding engineer.
I'm just glad that there's no longer an audible, or at least not to my ears, an audible echo in here when I talk. I don't know if that's just because I've become accustomed to the room, or if
I think there's a little bit of an echo. Like if you click, you can hear a little bit of an echo, but I think that's just because all around that side of the room, on the other half of the room, there's a lot of empty space. But I mean, I plan on getting I need to hang the blackboard up, and I want to get like a clock, and I want to get either a poster or a painting to go on the wall, and one to go in the other corner of the room, and kind of like all of those things will make the room sound a lot softer, like for the audio. But also when we move to the shed, that'll be even better because the walls will be made out of wood.
Yeah, true.
And also the ceiling will be how do you call that, like a triangle.
Oh yeah.
Whereas like this is a flat ceiling with corners, so it'll reflect all the sounds. But I mean, like this, it won't matter because
although I suppose you probably haven't had much free time to focus on like interior decorations for this room, mostly because of is it GarageNet? That's what you've been
GarageMate.
GarageMate, that's it. That's the main one you've been focusing on, isn't it?
Yeah, which is now almost done. I want to make like a demo version of it. So like you go onto the website and you can click a demo button and see like a fake version of the app and use it and stuff.
Oh, what, only accessible through private link, that kind of thing?
So like obviously there's going to be the actual app, but like maybe someone wants to see what the app is going to be like, so they need to have like a dummy version with like fake data and stuff in. Some websites have it where you can do that.
Oh, I see. So you don't mean a fake website in terms of being able to test?
No, yeah, more like just like something visual for people so that people can see what it looks like. Yeah, but I mean, most of the app is already done. It's got like the main app, it's got a website, and it's got a booking. It's like a mobile booking page as well, so customers can go and place bookings.
I feel like it's probably important for me to ask before I ask any other questions, but what actually is it? Because I've heard you talk a lot about it, but I don't exactly know what it is.
So it's basically, okay, so originally it was, I think we already talked about this in the previous podcast, but I'll do it again. This is now the second GarageMate episode, but basically originally it was going to be for Luke's dad, Luke, who's been on the podcast, and Luke's dad wanted like a website or like something to basically like send reminders to their customers, like MOT reminders, like your car needs an MOT. He's got loads of customers.
It's coming back now. You did, I think, talk to me about it. And it kind of started out as just like a simple project for Luke's dad, and then it kind of evolved and carried on, and basically we've been 4 months later, we've been working on it a bit more, and it's kind of turned into like a full thing that now we're going to launch as its own product. And we've even launched a company for it on Company's House. You can find it on Company's House. It's called GarageMate Limited. And it'll be done soon. I mean, I've been saying for like the past 3 weeks that it'll be done, but every time we say that it's going to be done, we discover that there's more things that need doing. So yeah, maybe it'll be done soon. It'll be done at some point. Yeah. I meant to ask as well, is this more of like a passion project? Because I remember you spoke to me about how you said you don't really have, before it was, you were saving up to move out and you were looking at the new house and all that stuff, and then after moving in, you didn't really feel like you had a big project to kind of work on, or like a goal to work towards. Is this kind of filling that? Basically since then, during that period I did think, I don't have any good business ideas. I don't know what I'm doing with my life now. And then kind of like, I guess like weirdly, not long after that, like I said to myself, okay, I'm going to come up with some good business ideas. And then I came up with some good business ideas, basically, kind of just like that, kind of just like weirdly, coincidentally, I just did
And one of them was this GarageMate, the Garage app. Although I've been working on it for a while, I realized, we could make it into a proper app and like try and sell it. And then also this AI app, which basically is going to be like the AI app version of what Tensile Media was. So Tensile Media kind of like was going to be something, or the main services that we were offering with Tensile Media were creative services where we'd like take photos of products, film ads, do companies marketing and things like that. But the project that I'm working on after this, which is the one that I'm most excited for, is basically to do all of that, but kind of with AI, eliminating the need to hire a photographer or a videographer. Yeah.
All right. I might sound stupid saying this, but what do you mean by that?
So imagine you are a business, like a hardware business, for example, an e-commerce hardware business.
Right.
And you've realized that you don't have the time or the money or the equipment to pay a full-time photographer or videographer to create good marketing for your products. You need photos, you need videos, you need all of this stuff.
I see where this is going.
But there's a new thing that's gotten released, and so I was in a Discord server, and when this got released, loads of people were talking about it, and I came up with the idea. And what this video that I'm showing you now, the audience won't be able to see it because this is a podcast, but what I'm showing Leander now is a video that was generated by Sora AI. It's by the same company that made ChatGPT. This entire video is AI generated.
The whole thing?
The whole thing is AI generated. Not a single thing in there is real. The whole thing AI generated.
Okay. So just for context for the listeners, it's a lady walking down a street, just kind of looking around, but it's as if
it just looks real.
It just looks very real. And a lot of the time I find with AI pictures, especially a lot of the ones that kind of circulate or go viral, is the hands and the face just look very jarring and off-putting, if you know what I mean.
Look how real this looks.
Yeah.
Like, this just looks like a film. And this is all AI generated. None of this is real.
Oh, that is weird.
Which is like insane. And as soon as I saw this, I realized, holy shit. Obviously it has limitations, and they've got a couple of examples of the limitations. I'll just show you. Oh,
so this is not free, I'm assuming, but you can pay to use this.
Yeah, you'll be able to pay to use this. Yeah,
wow.
So basically this is the premise for the app that I'm going to be working on. So there's limitations to it when it comes to like complex scenes or complex things. It's not great. Like it's not loading very well. Their website must be like getting hammered by people visiting it. But there's let me see if I can find it. Where is it?
Wow. All these videos look just like highly edited footage. It doesn't look...
But basically there's a video that is generated which is of like a bunch of puppies, but the puppies are kind of like phasing in and out of one another, because obviously like the AI doesn't like understand the concept of things being separate, and like this man is running backwards on a treadmill.
Oh, I see.
Like he's running the wrong way on the treadmill. Here we go. Yeah, the puppies are kind of like
this one
appearing out of nowhere. Like when it comes to like some like complex scenes, it doesn't really like do it very well. This one is cursed. This looks really weird.
What on earth?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is strange.
Yeah. So obviously it has limitations, but what I thought was, wow, this would be perfect for simple videos or photos of just a single item, like a product. like a door handle.
Yeah, actually,
or like a product.
That's true.
Because what you can do is you can give it a reference video or photo and get it to generate stuff from that. So all of those, many of these like examples that they show on the site are from a reference photo or video. So for example, this one, the dog image was what was given to it, and then it generated this video from that. So this was generated from the photo. So the idea is, business owner, they take a picture of their product on their mobile phone, they upload it to our app, and they get back an amazing product ad, kind of like this. That's the concept. Like you take a picture of your product in your hand, and then you give it a prompt of like, create a video of this with amazing blah blah blah, whatever. You describe what you want, and then you get back a marketing photo or video of the product. And that's kind of like the concept of the app. So the app will be like just like an app where you have all of that stuff, so you can create ads, and you can manage all of the products that you've got and create new photos or videos for your products, and do it kind of like with the help of AI.
I suppose my only question then would be kind of as somebody who'd be wanting to sell a product, would you even be inclined? I mean, the only reason you would go for this AI product photo shoot style gig is money, I'm assuming. Money and assured quality. I
guess you'd go for it simply if you couldn't afford to hire someone full-time to take photos of your product. Because ultimately, like getting a professional, or at least right now, getting a professional photographer or a professional videographer in is going to give you a better quality photo or video, but it might cost you like between 5 and 10 grand. Or you could use this app and get something of subpar quality, and it'd be a lot cheaper. Is like the concept. Basically.
It's a really interesting thought experiment, though. Imagine, say, 15 years down the line, just how much AI will have progressed.
I mean, at that point, like, it's kind of interesting to think about how many people are still going to be working in the creative industry anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
And is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I mean, this is kind of like that. Do you remember that thought experiment that we talked about? Like a contained thought experiment. There are two nations of people. Each nation of people has a population of 10 people. Nation 1, all of the people are artists and they're painting all day. Nation 2, everyone is builders and they're building houses. Which nation is going to be better? The one, obviously, with all of their population building houses and building technology.
Better in what regard? Better as in better progression-wise?
Yeah, better progression-wise. They have more housing, they have more amenities, they have a better economy, they're more scientifically advanced, etc.
Whereas comparably, the first group would have, I'm sure, deeper cultural significance than just the builders.
So, what is it? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? See, I don't think that, people working on cameras, for example, taking photos or videos of products, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing that's being replaced by AI, because people who are creative will find new ways to be creative. I think, like for example, I don't know, when computers came around and maybe less people are buying paintings and pictures and more people are watching TV, here's a better analogy. When the TV came out, less people are going to the theatre, more people are watching television.
That's true.
That didn't mean that all of the creative people, it didn't mean that there's no longer any creative jobs. It just meant all of the creative people are now producing films instead of theatre. So maybe, with this revolution of AI, all of the creative people will just find, there'll be a new medium of creativity that might appear from this. Yeah. But who knows?
I do remember I can't remember who was talking about this, but I remember somebody having the discussion of at what point do you think video evidence will become basically not able to be produced in court?
Pretty soon.
Because
yeah, pretty soon actually.
Yeah, imagine somebody has quote unquote video evidence of you doing this or you doing that, performing a crime or, criminal activity or anything. At what point really does it just become inadmissible? Because
I guess you'd only be able to verify it then if it came from a really credible source, like if the source providing the video evidence was an organization, because then at that point this organization are not unlawfully producing AI generated content, whereas if it's a random person, so I would imagine that people wouldn't be able to produce video or photo or audio evidence in court unless they were like an authorized, recognized.
Oh, you mean in the sense of ripping security camera footage or...
Yeah, so like if for example, like you've been taken to court for murdering someone, but the building that you supposedly committed the murder in, you managed to contact the company, and it's a bank, and they come forward and produce the CCTV records, like that would be credible evidence because the bank isn't going to unlawfully lie and produce fake CCTV. But if a random person was to come forward with photo evidence recorded on their phone, that wouldn't be credible evidence because it's not from a credible source. Yeah. I guess at that point, photo, video, and audio would be treated the same as eyewitness.
Ah, that's true.
Because in the case of an eyewitness, it's only credible if it's from a credible source.
Yeah.
Because someone can lie.
Yeah.
The same way that a photo or video would be able to lie now. Yeah.
But it's also similar to... I find eyewitness quite a weird phenomenon as well, because it was the same reason why... who was it? It was Jack the Ripper that was described by so many different quote-unquote eyewitnesses as being different heights, different weights, different hair color, different all sorts, and it just kind of becomes pointless and meaningless. But yeah,
indeed. Yeah. I do wonder how long it will be before AI gets to that point.
Yeah, because I feel like at the moment, as far as audio goes, I feel like audio, once you have enough audio files of somebody, you can replicate their voice. You can replicate their voice, yes.
Yeah.
It's like with there's so many Joe Rogan, Joe Biden, Donald Trump, all these like celebrities, loads of people love just making AI videos of them saying just the most absurd shit ever. That immediately after hearing it, oh yeah, no shit, that's AI.
Riz, or like whatever it is.
Yeah, a bunch of just fucking brain rot. But but yeah, it's imagine being like 85 years old and hearing that and being like, what the fuck?
What the hell? Yeah. It's like a serious security threat, isn't it? Because like imagine, like it makes me realize you shouldn't post photos, videos, or audio of yourself publicly, like this podcast. Actually, holy shit, of yourself publicly, because now technically, like a scammer could download all of the podcast episodes, get all of our voices, and then spoof your phone number, which you can do, by the way. You can call someone and spoof a phone number. So when someone receives the call, it displays as being from your phone number, which is why SMS verification actually isn't secure. So technically someone could do that, spoof your phone number, call our mum and host your voice and say that you're like being held at gunpoint and you have to send these people £1,000 or they're going to kill you right here and now. And like, do you think Mummy would actually think, oh no, this is AI? Or would you think, oh my God, Leander has called me on his phone number. This is obviously him. I need to send money right now. Like, that's actually possible now. That's doable. Someone could do that with all of especially with all of like public audio of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, actually,
So actually, it does make me think, actually, we should have like a family code word or like something, like some sort of private code word that all of like your close family know of, so that they know if you were to like call them with like some sort of serious situation, they can like identify if it's really you or not. Yeah, because that is possible. You can spoof phone numbers very easily, and you could just like rip all of our voices and like fake them perfectly. Yeah,
that is a really dark thing to think about, but
yeah,
I'm like,
but it's 100% possible. Yeah, it is actually possible, which is like that's the worst part of AI. But I mean, people do that, don't they? People have been scamming each other for ages, you know, like all the fucking Indian call center scammers that have been viral on YouTube before.
Yeah, there is also another way AI can be used to kind of ruin maybe not ruin you financially, but maybe in terms of your job and career wise. And I think there was something about I think Taylor Swift, some AI images of her were created of her nudes. Imagine you're just the average dude or girl, and you're just some woman working your job, and I don't know, you have somebody who is crazy or obsessed or whatever, and they just, I don't know, they make AI images of you like similar to Taylor Swift, just like nude, and then just send it to your boss anonymously.
Yeah,
like they're not gonna believe they're not gonna think this is AI. They're gonna think, all right, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah, that's true. That's really true.
Yeah,
there are a lot of, but then again, that could have been done before with like Photoshop. If someone really wanted to get you that bad, they could have done that in the past with Photoshop, I suppose.
Yeah, I think the difference though is that with Photoshop, for it to be believable, you have to actually be skilled, whereas with AI, you literally just have to give them a reference image for something like that, which is
that's true.
Quite weird to think about.
Yeah. I think the rapid rate at which it's advancing is like the part that is most scary for people, because people fear things that are happening quickly or
that they can't control,
or that they can't understand fast enough, right? You know, if this was to happen over the course of like 10 to 100 years, people wouldn't be panicking about it because it's happening slowly, right? Think about global warming. It's been slowly happening for a long, long time. No one gives a single fuck.
Yeah.
AI pops up over the course of 5 years. People lose their mind. Is AI destroying the planet? No. Is global warming destroying the planet? Yes. Do people care about that? No.
Yeah.
So if it happens slowly, I don't think people would care, but people only care because it's happened so fast that most people aren't able to understand it quick enough.
Yeah, and I think with that inability to understand it quick enough comes the ability for some people to exploit that for whether it be monetary or, you know, personal or whatever.
Yeah. What I do wonder is how long it will be until... Also, I hate the word AI that's being used to describe all of this, because none of this is AI. Yeah. AI literally means artificial intelligence. And so far, artificial intelligence or general intelligence has not been reached. No one has achieved creating AI yet. It is kind of cringe how everything is called AI, because it's like a buzzword now, but none of it is actually AI. A large language model that like takes... billions of inputs, mashes them through a probabilistic map, and then gives you an output. That's not intelligence. It can't reason, and it can't problem solve. It's kind of like a big map or like a giant filter more than anything. There's no thinking or there's no processing in a large language model, like what ChatGPT is. Like, it doesn't actually think about anything. It doesn't know what any of the inputs or outputs are. I wonder how long it will be until actual real AI is made. AI that can just think in the same way that a person can. And I'm surprised that no one has kind of figured out how to yet, because it is surprisingly difficult just to
wrap your head
around how do you think. Even though that sounds weird, well, I know how I think. I'm thinking right now, but how do you actually think? When someone asks you to answer a question, fundamentally, how do you answer the question? For example, if someone was to ask you to solve a Rubik's Cube, and this is your first time seeing a Rubik's Cube, fundamentally, how are you actually solving the puzzle? What is your brain actually doing? How does your brain identify what a problem is? Or even simpler than that, maybe a Rubik's Cube is too complex. What about just a simple question of what is something that you can't do from memory? What is 11 plus 45? You can't do that from memory. You have to do it manually. How are you actually answering that question?
Yeah.
And it's actually weirdly difficult to identify how it is that you're doing it. Because I've spent like hours and hours and days thinking about how we actually do it. And it's kind of impossible to answer.
I suppose the boring and simple answer is that it's very complicated. And if it was an a quick and easy answer on how do we think and how do we operate, and what is our consciousness, then AI would have been made already. Somebody would have already done it.
Yeah, someone would have already done it. Yeah. That's the part that I struggle with. Yeah, because I thought, it would be awesome if I could come up with a concept for AI, because ultimately all you need to do is fundamentally boil down how your logic operates to just the most simple form. As soon as someone figures out in the most simple form how the human brain solves an incredibly simple problem, then you can kind of scale it up from there. You can scale it up to solve bigger and bigger problems. But how you actually do that is kind of hard.
Yeah. But I mean, I suppose it makes sense, because imagine, when somebody thinks of AI, what do they think of? They think of an android version of a human. But take a human brain, it's very complicated, and it would be near impossible to recreate through coding, through any artificial means, which is why it hasn't been done yet. But even if you were to take one of the more like simple brains of just like a small animal or like an insect, it's still very complicated.
Yeah.
It's not just like a quick and easy, I can replicate this kind of deal.
Yeah. Like one thing that is quite strange to think about. So let's say, for example, you've got some sort of algorithm running, and you're trying to replicate your own mind's thought process. I think the first thing to think about is that all of the AI that currently exists in the kind of in this nature. You give it a problem, it solves the problem, and then that's the end of that thought process. But in real life, you are here and you identify a problem that you want to solve. right? Like it's not like a problem is actually given to your brain. You identify a problem. How do you even identify that something is a problem that you should solve? And also, what do you do when there are no problems to solve? Is everything technically problem solving? Is everything that you do technically problem solving? Can you think of anything that you do that isn't problem solving? Because when I thought about it, I was like, well, actually, technically, everything that we do is problem solving. Everything, absolutely everything that you do is kind of problem solving. You want to do something. How do I do it? And then you kind of execute it.
I suppose the reason why I get what you're saying, and I think the reason why you're saying it is because fundamentally there must be a reason behind anything being done. You move to sit somewhere else, there's a reason behind it. It looks more comfy over there. I'm making room for someone else. You're solving a problem that you're giving, not even kind of a problem, but it's
that's
more
kind of
like
hard to think about. It's really weird to think about. So like, does the brain have something that identifies things that you need to do?
Or what about, okay, here's one thing. Say you're just sitting, talking, like I am, sitting across from someone I am right now.
Hang on, I actually wrote like a little mind map, because every so often when I think about this, I thought every so often I think about these sorts of things. I should just have a mind map that I always add to.
Yeah.
And so I did make one.
Let's pull it up.
Where the hell is it? As you'll notice, there's not very much that's been added to it, because this is kind of a weird and difficult thing to think about.
Yeah.
So like, I thought, okay, so there's problem solving, but there's kind of also like observation, because you can just kind of sit, like you can force yourself to sit and not do anything. But even when you're not doing anything, you're still hearing things or seeing things or smelling things. And even when you're purposefully trying to relax yourself, you relax yourself by listening to your breathing or looking at the wall or closing your eyes and focusing on something. And that's kind of like observation.
I think I've got something that you would do that isn't solving a problem. Okay. Say, we're talking, I'm sitting across from you, and in the middle of the conversation, I'm holding the pen in a pen in my right hand, and I start fiddling with it. I'm talking to you, I'm not even aware of me fiddling with it. It's just, I'm just fiddling with it. It's not serving any purpose, I'm not solving any problem, and I'm not even consciously aware of me fiddling with it.
Yeah. So what is that? Because I think also the brain is like split up into lots and lots of like, first of all, I'm not a scientist. All right?
Yeah,
first of all, I want to preface this by,
should be,
I'm not a scientist. I do not know if anything that I'm saying is actually scientifically backed up, but this is like, from my own opinion, like it is obvious when as you live your life and as you're doing things and experiencing things, it's obvious that there are lots of very different parts of your brain that do very different things, like memory or problem solving is kind of very much like here. It's kind of like here. It's kind of like at the forefront of your consciousness and who you are. The problem solving part of you is kind of like the most like surface level part of you that you're aware of. But there's other parts like like muscle memory. Right, like you can train like muscle memory where like
or reflexes.
Like if you throw a ball up in the air and you catch it, sometimes you're not even really thinking about how to catch it or problem solving how to catch it.
And then you've got bodily reactions that don't use your brain. For example, you put your finger on a hot stove, you're immediately going to jump, or your hand moves back, but I think before your brain processes it, or your neurons take a shortcut to quickly be like, get your hand off of that.
Yeah. And then there's also things like, I just had it, like, so when you're looking, right, if you're looking at me and I suddenly do that, like, you didn't have to think about looking at my hand, and as I'm moving my hand around in the air, if you're looking at it, you're able to track my hand. You're not like processing in your brain, his hand moved 2 inches to the right, so I have to move my eye 17 centimeters counterclockwise.
Actually, that is a really good point.
And also, you don't even have to, like, somehow you just immediately know that's a hand, I need to look at it, or you immediately know this is something that's not part of this. Like, these two are not the same thing. This is an object. Like, you can identify things that are separate from other things just by looking at it. You don't even have to think. Like, you can look at something, look at the ground, and you can pick out all of the pebbles that are there on the ground just by looking, when in reality what you're seeing is just a vision of color and contrast and stuff. If you were to show that to an AI algorithm or to a computer, it wouldn't know, like, maybe a baby isn't able to know what a stone is, but it can see that there's something on the ground that is a thing, that is an object, and it's not part of the ground.
Is it that I suppose maybe it's to do with age, and kind of as you transition from a baby to a toddler to a child to a teenager to an adult, maybe your brain is better fine-tuned to adjust to the amount of information that you're being given. Because when you think about it, you've got if you were consciously aware of all of your senses and what they were feeling all of the time, it would be basically like sensory overload. It's like when you have severe autism and you can hear everything all at once, and you can't tune out different noises.
I think that's why kids with autism have to wear those like headphones whenever they go into busy places. You know, like you see those kids with like big bright colored headphones.
Because otherwise it would just be essentially a sensory overload and you just lose your mind. It's like so it's interesting kind of how our brain just kind of hyper focuses.
Well, it has, like, our brain has like the ability to locate a thing, an object, but it can do that with everything. You can do that with sound, right? Like, if you're listening to a bunch of noise and voices, you can pick out individual objects in that stream of sound. You can pick out individual voices. You can pick out individual things. Like, if you're listening to a ton of noise, you can be like, that was a car. That's that. You can pick out each individual thing. And the same with vision. As I'm looking, I can pick out all of these things in front of me. The same with touch. When you're feeling things, you can pick out different things. And the same with thought, with problems. You can kind of, when you're given a problem, you can almost view it or think about it as an object, and you can approach it from many different angles to solve the problem, right? Like, if I ask you, how do we get to the shop? You can kind of hear those words and you can turn the words into a problem, which is almost like an imaginary object in your mind, right? But if you give those words to an AI, how do you allow the AI, or how do you allow the algorithm to turn those words into a problem, like an object, a thing that can be thought about and considered as something, not just words, not just a string of words. How do I get to the shop?
Do you know what I think maybe one of the more fundamental issues with creating an AI is the only like conscious. What's the word I'm thinking of? When you're the only intelligence we know of is physical, like physical brains, and you can't really. I mean, how do you code a brain? You can't, because it's a physical thing. It's there.
Well, I mean, technically, also all of the code is also physical, right? So,
is it?
Yes. So, for example, like if I just pull up this, right? This is code, right? But for all of this text to exist, for all of this code to exist, it does actually have to. So anything that is on a screen or on your phone, it does actually have to exist in the physical world for it to exist at all, right? It has to, by laws of physics, it has to exist, right? You can't have something that doesn't have a representation somewhere in the physical world. So even a line of text in a code editor, in what that is in the physical world, is a bunch of electrons in a stick of RAM. So in a stick of RAM, there'll be tons and tons and tons of what are they called? Are they called transistors? Maybe they're called. I don't quote me on that. But basically, you have
quoted
electronic storage for each like binary bit of data. Something will either be a 0 or a 1, true or false, positive or negative, and that is a representation of a piece of data. So this string of text could be converted into, you might have heard of binary, right? All of this can be converted into binary. This line of text could be converted into binary, and that just means like a bunch of zeros and ones. And the zeros and ones are directly represented by actual physical electrons in the memory of your computer. That's how the whole computer works, right? So this bit of text in the code editor, the F in the word function is actually somewhere inside the computer's storage, and inside the computer's storage there's a little I don't know what it's called, but basically it's a little thing in the bit of storage, and the electron will either sit on the left hand side or the right hand side of this thing. And if the electron sits on the left hand side, positively charged, that's a 1. If it sits on the other side and it's negatively charged or neutral, I don't know what it is, then it's a 0. And this is your first bit of binary, 0. What does the next one say? It says 1. So we've got 0 and 1. What does the next one say? It says that. The next one says that. And then we've got a line of code in our code editor. And now do that 100,000 billion times, and you've got this entire page, which then gets compiled by something else which is stored in the RAM. But that's what it is. They are actually physical electrons in a little piece of metal.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Right. So so the computer is, in a way, it is kind of the same as, well, no, it's not, but like it's similar to a brain in that it is, all of the information in a computer is actually represented in the physical world with electrons on little pieces of metal, and whether or not they are positively or negatively charged.
Okay, following that same vein of thought, then what if it's just not possible to create AI through any means of coding or artificial intelligence? Because what if you simply can't replicate something comparable to the human brain using, it's a weird example, but the stick of RAM, what if there is no comparison that can be created?
Which, that could be the case, because there is a fundamental difference between a computer and a human brain. And this is the only fundamental difference that I think matters, because if it wasn't for this, then a human brain and a computer would, in my opinion, be just the same thing. But the fundamental difference is that a human brain is analog and a computer is digital. What does that mean? Digital means that, so as we just described, a piece of data, fundamentally, it can either be 0 or 1, positive or negative, true or false. It cannot be anything in between. It is only 0 or 1. There is nothing in between or outside of that. There's no kind of, there's no maybe. There is only like hard yes or no. And that's why it's perfect for maths, for problem solving, because there's no uncertainty. But with an analog computer, there is an infinite amount of
available options, or
I don't know how to describe it. So let's say, for example, you want to calculate a sum, like what 2 plus 2 is. With a digital computer, that's relatively simple. It will, I don't even know how to describe this, but it's relatively simple because it's bound by zeros and ones, so it will output a number, right? It'll output a solid number, right? Yeah. No in between. On an analog computer, maybe you've got a bunch of cogs turning and it's turning a dial, and you've got some numbers drawn around the dial, and it'll reach where the number that's drawn on the dial is, right? As you're moving the dial, you can point the dial to where number 4 is, which would be the answer. But is it actually pointing at 4? No, that's impossible. It's impossible for you to actually exactly point at 4, because it is, like, for example, it's impossible for you to point at the 1 centimeter mark on a ruler, because it basically doesn't exist. What you're actually pointing at, even if you're pointing as accurately as possible, you're pointing at 1.0000000 whatever 17654 centimeters. It's almost impossible to actually point at 1 centimeter, because in the real world there's infinitely minute amount of detail in the real world. There's no such thing as just zeros and ones in measurement, like in the real world, which is why in a human brain, your kind of like your measurement for doing things and thinking is more like a gradient. There's no steps like you would have on a number line. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's digital. But on the human brain, it's more like, Does an analog computer exist then? Yeah, so analog computers do exist. And in fact, there's a really cool video done not by Vsauce, by, I've forgotten what his name is. Crap. I've forgotten what his name is. Doesn't matter. He's a YouTuber that does like science and maths videos, and he talks about how we've reached the limit for digital computers.
Tom Scott?
Don't think so. But he does a video and he says, like, we've reached the limits for digital computers, and he basically talks about analog computers. Maybe if you search on YouTube analog computers, it will come up. Yeah, Veritasium. Yeah, Veritasium, and that's the video. Future computers will be radically different analog computing, because basically the premise of his video is that we've reached the limits for digital computers, which we have, because now that thing that I described, the zeros and the ones, like, that's now on the atomic level, and it's physically impossible to get any smaller than that. So we can't really improve the scale or the power of digital computers much more than where they are currently. But with an analog computer, like that example I gave, how do you solve a 10-digit maths problem? What's 4 plus 4, or what's 2 plus 2? To build that with a you can actually build a Lego representation of a digital system to solve that problem, and it's like, maybe say this big, And you can also build an analog version of that system with a little dial that will calculate the same answer for you. And it's 1/12 of the size. So it's less than 10% of the size of the digital solution. And so what he thinks is that the future of computing will be analog, which is the brain. The brain is an analog computer.
Yeah.
The brain is like, I guess, the pinnacle of an analog computer. Which is why digital computers are so much better at doing maths than a human brain, right? Because the digital computer is perfect for doing maths.
Yeah.
Because it works in steps, whereas the human brain works in, gradient. There's infinite precision between points of thinking and thought. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if digital computers weren't possible to make AI like a human brain.
Yeah.
But yeah, who knows when that day might be. I'm going to check to see how far we're in. Wow, we've recorded 1 hour.
Wow. That hour has flown by, actually.
Yeah. Any other thoughts?
No, I don't believe so. I think this was meant to be as it is. I mean, I suppose comparison to other episodes, it is a short episode with a lot of ours being 1.5 hours to 2 hours long. Sometimes I remember one of the long ones being 2.5 hours. But no, I can't think of any other topics just off the top of my head that I wouldn't want to, wait to discuss with Bradley.
Yeah. Well, in the next podcast, we'll be talking about the Oscar Awards, and we'll be talking about Leander's coffee latte art competition, which he's doing tomorrow. And
so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, and I think we'll probably have a couple of other topics. I'm not too sure what Bradley's got planned, but we'll find out, and we'll be doing the podcast not tomorrow, but on Friday. Yeah, which, well, the listeners won't be hearing us on Friday. They'll be hearing it probably the following week. But yeah, there we go. Well, this has been a special episode. Special episode.
Just the two of us. Yeah,
just me and Leander. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.
Goodbye now.